What it do? Yo man, listen. Today, I want to answer a question and also talk about the most efficient raid team in Tacticus. Let's get right into it. So, the question I often get is, hey Draupnir, I'm a new player. What guild raid team should I focus on? And the answer to that is to build the most efficient guild raid team. And the most efficient guild raid team is a team that is usable for the most amount of bosses. Right now, at the release of this video, there are three options when it comes to raid teams: the Neurotrope team, the Extor Row mechanical team, and the Ragnar Blackmane multi-hit team. Leveling up any given team is a lot of work, and leveling up all 5 characters is even more work. On top of that, leveling up all the relevant characters for that given team is even more work. Some of you might be confused when I say all the relevant characters versus all the characters. So when I say all characters, I mean 5 characters. However, when I say relevant characters, it's all the characters that are applicable in different bosses. For example, when I say the Ragnar Blackmane team, people might think about Ragnar Blackmane, Eldurion, Athena, Calgar, and something else, right? This is the core of the team. However, High Marshal Helbrecht, Anshi, Roswitha, Bellator, Karn the Betrayer, these are all relevant characters depending on the guild rated boss you're fighting against. If you're fighting against Magnus, I'm not going to bring Eldurion, I'm going to bring Roswitha. If I'm fighting against what's it called? The Rogolnorn battle tank, I'm definitely bringing Athena. If I'm fighting against a Turbigon, I'm bringing Bellator. These are all little decisions you can make in order to get the most out of your team. Additionally, the fact that there are so many characters makes it so even if you don't have the exact characters you need, you can still succeed based on how modular the team is. Talking about guild raid teams is fun and all, however, it's also important to talk about the bosses as well, right? Because bosses determine a lot when it comes to guild raid teams. As of now, there are a few bosses in the game. Turvigon, Hive Tyrant, and Screamer Killer are the 3 Tyranids. They are notable in the sense that they are easy to fight. They are kind of stat checky, especially the Screamer Killer. However, as you level up, you will see that they are the easier bosses. Notably, because of the fact that they are Tyranids, you cannot bring the Neurotrope comp into them. And if you're a new player, you will mostly be facing these 3 bosses, so I wouldn't suggest you building the Neurotrope team. The Silent King is an anti-psyker boss. He has the passive where he takes significantly reduced damage from psychers, so, again, Neurotrope is not good. The Rogolnorn battle tank is a, relevant boss in the sense that Neurotrope can be used, the mechanical team can be used, Ragnar Blackmane team can be used. Mortarion is anti-multi-hit. I wrote anti-melee, but you can brute force your way through it with high level stuff. Most notably, it's anti-multi-hit. After the 3rd hit, any subsequent hit deals significantly reduced damage. Gaskell Traka is anti-multi-attack, where because of his passive, you simply can't use the Exor Row team because of how many summons you're going to be summoning and how your damage will get axed by 90%. Avatar of Cain is also a relevant boss in the sense that all 3 guild raid teams can be usable with great success. Magnus the Red is a newer boss, however, he is kind of restrictive in the sense that you really want to use the Ragnar Blackmane comp into him. With all that being said, it's also important to understand damage ceilings. Not every team does the same amount of damage to bosses, and it's not fair to the teams to compare their damage numbers across bosses. What do I mean by this? A Extor Row mechanical team will do 1.4 million damage to a Screamer Killer, a legendary Screamer Killer. However, a Neurotrope team will do around 500, 600,000 damage to a legendary 5 Mortarion. If you take those numbers at face value, you're going to be thinking, oh my god, the mechanical team is better. However, the fact of the matter is you have to understand what the circumstances are. It's like, hey, you can't bring multi-hit, and if you bring Exor Row against Mortarion, one mistake and you're going to do no damage. Nothing really matches Extra Row's damage, and it is quite alluring to be like, hey guys, I did 1.5 million damage against this Tyranid boss. It's pretty cool. However, it's important to understand where certain teams are used and why certain teams are used where they're used. Nero is consistent because of the fact that he does psychic damage and because of the fact that his passive is capped and he is like the guy who does almost all the damage in the team. Now, if you're a newer and not a late game player, you should really invest in one team. If you spread yourself out, if you try to build multiple teams, you will really not succeed anywhere because you will be spread too thin and the higher level guild raid bosses will just eat you alive. I did a little, I don't know what's called, it's a graph, like just a little note where if you look at the bosses, you can realistically use Ragnar Blackmane against almost anything in the game. Against Turbigon, Hive Tyrant, and Screamer Killer, Ragnar can be used with great success. If you want exact numbers against the same legendary tier Screamer Killer, the mechanical team did, in my testing, 1.45 million damage, and the Ragnar Blackmane multi-hit team did 920,000 damage. So it's significantly less. However, it's one team, it's efficient, it's comfortable. Silent team, Ragnar is probably not your best bet. However, you can do like 700,000 damage with a max Ragnar team, which once again is lower than Extra Row. Rogue Guldorn, I will personally go as far as to say Ragnar is probably the best thing there. Mortarion, you straight up can't use it. Gaskell Traka, nothing matches the Bellator Lock Ragnar Blackmane comp. Avatar of Cain, it's close, but I do think Ragnar has the slight edge because of the double Howl, especially if you can get high ground early. When it comes to Magnus, let's start with that. When it comes to Magnus Red, personally, against higher level Magnuses, Magnum PI, against higher tier Magnus, the most success I've been having is with the Ragnar Blackmane comp. As you can see, Ragnar multi-hit team is pretty applicable, and you can use other multi-hit teams with lower levels of success. However, it's still like a reasonable amount of damage. And you might be saying, like, what about Row Draupnir? You've been saying Row a lot. And absolutely, Row is a perfectly good raid team. It's the best raid team in the game. However, it is significantly less applicable. Turbigon, Hive Tyrant, Screamer Killer, Silent King, these are all guild raid bosses. Row absolutely dominates. Row is the best thing in the game against these bosses. Against Avatar of Cain, he is usable. He does do a lot of damage. At the higher levels of Avatar of Cain, Row can be difficult, especially with the summons and whatnot. And Magnus the Red, it is usable for lower levels. You can lock him in a corner with a lot of summons and, you know, he won't move around as much. It's doable. As I said, personally, I've been having significantly more success with Ragnar Blackmane comps. Against Rogue Guldorn, Mortarion, and Gaskell, you can use them. You can have great success, especially against lower level Mortarions. If you have higher level Exo Row, you can absolutely face tank everything they can throw at you. However, this is assuming you are not at that point. What about the Neurotrope team? If you're a new player, and I say this as the biggest Neurotrope glazer there is, it's my favorite character in the game, like everybody knows I love Neurotrope. If you're a new player, you will mostly be facing Tyranids, and you can't bring Tyranids against Tyranids, so you will not be able to play Neurotrope, and it will be extremely frustrating to have chosen Neurotrope as your first guild raid team, and your damage will suffer because of it. So personally, if I was you, I will not build Neurotrope as my first team unless you are like in a guild that is significantly higher level than you are, and you know you are fighting against Mortar. I don't know. It's personally that doesn't sit right with me. As much as I like Neurotrope, I really can't recommend building him first. I think Ragnar is a team you should build if you're a new player. If you're asking yourself, what team should I build? I think Ragnar is a team. Now, this is my personal opinion. Other people might be saying mechanical team and whatnot. I just think Ragnar is so versatile that it's a team that will persist. Additionally, the requirements to be a part of the Ragnar team is significantly less restrictive compared to the other two teams. What do I mean by this? For the Neurotrope team, you either need to give a percent damage increase, you need to give extra hits without caps, you need to do psychic damage or suppressive, and you need to be able to do multiple instances of damage. Now, those are extremely specific things. If you're in the mechanical team, first you have to be mechanical, of course. You need to be able to summon mechanical things, you need to be able to give a reasonable enough buff to replace Eldarion. These are all difficult things, whereas the Ragnar Blackmane multi-hit team, the requirements are just to have a lot of hits or to give a good enough damage buff. Now, I'm being a little facetious in the sense that, hey, Draupnir, those are kind of difficult, I get that. But they are significantly more accessible than anything else. That's why I like the Ragnar team. Everybody has access to Bellator. Eldarion is easy to get because of the scripted pulls. Other characters, I get that Ragnar Blackmane is maybe not the most accessible character in the game. However, as I said, other multi-hit characters can work. Most principles really apply, but even ranged multi-hitters, they're less good. Like, if you have the choice between Ragnar or Volk, I'm gonna say Ragnar. That's not a controversial thing. However, I just wanted to address this, right, because people ask me and I answer them. However, I think it will be significantly more helpful to just address it in a video and explain my thought process instead of just telling people over and over again, like in every instance where I can just like guide them to the video. Anyways, thank you very much for watching the video. I genuinely appreciate you doing so. It does mean a lot to me. My referral code is in the middle of the screen. If you want to enter it, you do get 100 Blackstone shards, and it's a great way to support the channel. Thank you very much for watching the video. Have a good day and stay safe.